Hello there and welcome to episode 54 of the Moaning Show. My name is HED01 and in this particular edition I'd like to talk to you about television endings and their expectations, either by the people making the programmes in the first place or by the people consuming them, in other words watching them like yourself, watching this one at the time of the actual broadcast of the programme. Now, before I get going properly, I want to apologise for the quality of the previous videos on the channel. They have been a little bit disappointing in terms of their quality. There's been a sort of like jumping and buffering type technical problems with them, for which I can only apologise for. Those of you who have been watching the Moaning Show for quite a while know that these shows are recorded on a zero budget, which basically means I'm doing this in my spare time and of course with a games console camera, and I'm trying something out new on the PlayStation 4 camera. Let's hope that it works. You know, fingers crossed that we don't get any problems with regards to buffeting and, you know, buffering type problems. If I do, I may have to stop the Moaning Show for a little bit until I can afford a camera that I can operate, which will produce a better picture quality, if you see what I mean. So fingers crossed that'll happen. But anyway, on with the show and TV endings and their expectations. I'll talk about 4 shows in particular, 3 that have finished and another one that was rescued from the depths of being finished. So first one I'll talk about is Gotham. Now, Gotham is a show about a young Bruce Wayne growing up to be Batman, you know, the Dark Knight from the comic book series. But it's mainly about James Gordon and the road he takes on becoming commissioner of the Gotham City Police Department. Now, what this basically means is the fact that we have 2 protagonists of a fantasy comic book series about a superhero, the only realistic superhero that there could possibly be. You don't get people flinging out web, you don't get flying people, you don't get people shooting out lasers from their eyes. Batman is the only realistic superhero that there can possibly be. But that's neither here nor there. Gotham has run for 4 seasons and 12 episodes. Now, you can count that as season 5, and most people will. I probably will when I eventually get to see it. But the problem with it was more or less cancelled after 4 seasons and given enough budget to basically conclude its story. And that's what final seasons are. They're not necessarily a great season of the show that you've been watching up until that point. It's because of some bigwig suit who's making a decision like, oh, that's not getting any bloody ratings or enough people watching it, we'll have to pull the plug on that one. And that fucking decision drives me insane, because it's like, you're a fan of something, right? Say you're a fan of that show, and I'm only using it as an example, I'll use another couple in a minute. You're a fan of the show and it's like blah 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 blah, but it gets canned. And it gets canned because of the fact there's no more time for it in those people's minds. It's not making money, it's not bringing in the sponsors, it's not bringing in people watching the show, and that's more or less it. So that leaves the decision, the people who bring in the money to make the show, it more or less gives them the right to do with the show whatever they wish, you know, and it's like, oh, can't be fucked with that anymore, it's a load of shit. Now, this is bad on a couple of reasons, but A, it puts the people who made the show, we're talking producers, directors, cast and crew, out of work, basically. That's shitty. Let's hope they've saved their money well. And it also infuriates the fans who have been watching it up until that point, because basically you're watching it, you get invested in it, and basically they've got 12 episodes to make the show finish, you know, to end it completely. And Batman has what they call an extensive rogues gallery. Now, what a rogues gallery is his list of enemies. The Joker, Penguin, Catwoman, Riddler, Two-Face, to mention a few. And they've all had their stories brought forward in the mythological, story of Gotham and all that sort of stuff. And you do get annoyed with, everything being this, everything being that. And the thing is, they've shut off Gotham at the end of season 4. Now it's like a riot zone, in season 5. And in the final episode of the show, they've jumped forward 10 years to what's called retcon the action and to finish the story, basically. So in other words, Bruce has left Gotham with his millions and he's learned whatever he's needed to learn. Now, in the Batman mythology, he learns escapology from an escape artist and befriends a bunch of circus performers and becomes adept at fighting and attacking and escaping from like cuffs and rope and all that sort of shit. He also goes to university and studies criminology, just to try and understand why a criminal does what a criminal does. But okay, you've got all of that. Yeah, that's fine. That's what's supposed to happen, and that was what I personally was looking forward to when the Batman mythology was going forward. I was thinking, well, this could have a season completely of Bruce outside of Gotham at university learning all of this shit. But no, we're not going to get to see that because of the impatience of the people responsible for making the show, be it Warner Brothers, be it this big television executive that couldn't be bothered making anymore, or because of the people and the shareholders and the budgets and all of that crap. Now, that's Gotham. They jump forward 10 years, we then see the Bat on the screen, and even the rushing of the birth and the first few years of the young Barbara Gordon. Those who knew the earlier series of Batman, dinner Batman, know that Barbara Gordon is the daughter of Commissioner Gordon and grows up to be Batgirl. And eventually the Oracle, if you're familiar with Batman mythology. Now that isn't going to happen, and they've had to rush the what was going to happen with Barbara Gordon. I reckon even Barbara Keane in the show, in other words the maiden name of the Barbara Gordon that gave birth to Barbara Gordon in the Batman mythology, she and Commissioner Gordon have an affair and have Barbara in Gotham. Now in the comics, Commissioner Gordon and Barbara Keane get married and have Batgirl in wedlock. You know what I mean. But all of that had to be taken out and rushed in quickly because Batgirl needed to exist. And in like season 1, maybe start of season 2 of Gotham, the Flying Graysons were together, or the Graysons got together, the mother of Robin, in other words Dick Grayson. But I digress, and on to the second show that's ended in the last couple of months, last 6 weeks or so, and that is Game of Thrones. Now Game of Thrones is a show that I haven't seen a single episode of. I will hold my hand up and say that. But at the same time, Game of Thrones is also a show that millions of people all over the world have loved and enjoyed, be it for whatever reason. The action, the politics, the so-called adult themes in it. But it's ended, and it's ended on a sour note, just like Gotham. Well, not just like Gotham, but it's ended because of the expectations. Now, when it first came out, it was a huge, mega monster hit, and the problem with it again is these bigwigs who have the money that make the decisions. They hold the money, so they have the power, and it's like, okay, well, this is what you're doing, and we'll do 12 seasons of it. A couple of years in, that went down to 10 seasons. Okay, fair enough. And these things are like an hour an episode. It's like, well, you don't get 22 episodes like you do at Gotham or whatever. And they rushed it even more. It's like they went down to 8 seasons and that's all they're doing. And the final episode of Game of Thrones, I haven't seen it obviously, but it's been met with mixed reactions. People understand it who have read the books, or if they've read the books and they're disappointed by it. It's all of this is all disappointment with regards to the makers of the show not getting what they want, in other words ratings, money and whatever, and the people who are fans of the show. Because if you watch a show longer than say 3 seasons or 2 seasons, you're a fan of the show. Okay, that makes you a fan of the show, specifically in my eyes. So with that being said, you have what's called an opportunity of having this, of having that, and all of this is all to do with these wankers in charge that say, right, we're not doing it anymore, it's not making any money for us, despite people still enjoying it and watching it. True fans of the show, you know, sticking with it, you know. And as fans of the show, you get disappointed for X number of reasons. What you want to happen didn't happen. Who you wanted to be out on top at the end of the show wasn't on top at the end of the show. They either didn't do what you wanted them to do, they either moved away, ran away, or died, or whatever, you know. So you are disappointed. Your expectations are so high because you build them up brick by brick, and you know that anything less is going to piss you off to the nth degree. So you're thinking, oh fucking hell, that was a piece of shit. And you shoot, alright, yeah, on one way, yeah, you've got every right to be disappointed. You've watched it for that long. But eventually you should learn to figure out, well, what you're presented with is what's being forced upon television makers in most respects. So I'll move on to the third show that I'll talk about, and that's The Big Bang Theory. Now, it's just finished after 12 seasons, in other words 12 years of episodes, and it's ended on a relatively high note because most characters got what they wanted apart from one, and those people that watch The Big Bang Theory know who that character is. But in terms of how it's ended not because the networks have pulled it, not because some bigwig twat in a suit has said no, we're not doing that anymore. It's ended because one cast member wanted it to end. They didn't want to do it anymore. And alright, yeah, that's fair enough. You know, an actor doesn't want to do something, and so you do stop, and eventually other actors felt the same way, and so they didn't want to do it. Now, it's alright if all storylines are finished, if you see what I mean. You know, you can end it. And for 6 out of the 7 main characters, stories were finished. And a side character, his story was finished. You know, more or less happily ever after. But one of the main characters didn't get a happily or an ever or an after, and you're thinking, well, alright, it's fair to say that if a sitcom is needed, it's needed for this one a spin-off series is needed, that's the word I was looking for, is needed for this one character to resolve his story. And I feel sorry for the character. I don't necessarily feel sorry for the actors because they're all multi-millionaires, you know, bastards in other words. But you have to take into consideration that people are disappointed for the character that didn't get his happily ever after. And so that's what happens when a plug, a means of the show carrying on, just all of a sudden stops, or the plug gets pulled. You know, and you think, well, how unfair is that to the fans, the people making it, who might have wanted to do more? You know, then they've got to search for extra things to do, and it's not necessarily about money, it's the will to do something. And if that goes, then you're fucked, basically. But one programme that I do watch, or have watched, that isn't, is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now, like The Big Bang Theory, like other programmes as well, you know, they don't automatically stop because someone pulls the plug. Sometimes it gets saved, and this was the case with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which was on for 4 series, and the network that had it on wanted to do a final series, you know, and finish up all storylines and all of that, and that was fair enough. It got cancelled by the network. A day later, a new network bought the rights to the show and now shows it on their network. Alright, a couple of episodes less, but it still continues. This is a case of a network having faith in a programme that was good, then dwindled down just a tad, and they couldn't be bothered with it anymore. And another network has said, yeah, we'll give it a go, and they've got faith in it. Maybe not the same faith as the original network had in the show originally, but they have the same wishes and desires for the programme to continue. But TV endings are not always disappointing for reasons like that. Take How I Met Your Mother, for example. The fact, alright, I said earlier, you got to take what you're given. In some respects, yes, but in others, you do have a right to express your opinion, thinking, oh god, that wasn't what I was expecting. And the title character is the mother. You know, we meet the mother, we meet the mother at the end of season 8, and it's flash forwarding up to like 20 years, where the father's telling the kids a story about how he met their mother, who's dead in that particular time frame. And the people watching it were like, well, that's fucking stupid. The mother was in 20 episodes or 22 episodes and we barely got to know her, and that was really disappointing. You know, the love of his life, basically the mother of his children, is dead in the main story. And it's like, and then he goes off with the character he's been in love with virtually the whole series. You know, talking about from season 1 to season 9, and you think, okay, fair enough. And you look at it and think, okay, that's that, this is this. And they even shot an alternative ending where the mother survives, you know, the ending that makes sense, the ending that everyone wanted. And you think, well, okay, but that's how we build things up. Our expectations are usually too great. You know, similar things happen in video games as well. It's like, really? That's the ending? That's what we're given? A, that's not what we're expecting. B, it's not what we want. And C, it might even be so bad, you know, with the program makers just really can't be bothered anymore, or the game makers or the story makers really can't be bothered, and you just say, fuck it, bollocks to it. And that's what happened with Heroes. You know, you towards the end, the quality was that bad, none of us cared when it ended. Season 1 was fantastic, Season 2 went off the track a little bit, Season 3 was even weirder, and Season 4 we didn't give a shit, and it just ended. You know, it was save the cheerleader, but towards the end of it, it was fuck the cheerleader, and not in the good way, you know. But it's all because we build these things up, you know. It's our fault as well as the fault of the program makers and the people with the money, the tossers with the say, you know, oh, you know, you can do that, you can do this, you can do that. Oh no, fuck it, I can't be bothered anymore. It's all to do with that. So, that's about it for this edition of the Moaning Show. It's about the 5th time I've tried to do it, which is fucking annoying. But I am trying a new recording format. Thoughts, comments and suggestions in the drop down box. Please like the video. Just give it a click. It doesn't take 2 seconds. Just move it up, click, boom, you're done. Helps, probably help me, and you never know, you might see some better content in the future. But hopefully this has worked, and hopefully it's a little bit better quality than what you've seen in the past couple of shows. So I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more moaning. See you then.